Beautiful stitching. Hard to see on the yellow. We'll look at it later. And we're talking, this was 2 layers of this nylon webbing. Oh, nice job. Oh, and I should backtrack a little bit, shouldn't I? This is a Kenmore model 1351 that belongs to Shirley, a local lady. And as you may have seen on the Facebook shots, it was having all kinds of challenges. All kinds of challenges. Had been in storage, had been dropped. The main shaft and the balance wheel would not even turn. It's turning now, to say the least. All right, let's move over to some genuine cowhide. And I've got a real narrow strip here. I'm going to try to do this. Hopefully. All right. Yeah, let's see, what can we do with this one? I'm going to do almost like a mending stitch on this, I think. Let me see what I can do. I'll make it quite a bit tighter than I usually do. All right, here we go. Beautiful stitching. Beautiful stitching. Oh my goodness. And this machine comes with a 0.7 amp motor. Japanese made, obviously. If you saw any of the shots on Facebook, this Kenmore was made post-World War II in Japan. And they did a real fine job with it. As I went through it and looked at the various engineering of it, it's a spectacularly made machine as well. So nice zigzag on that machine. So now I'm going to move over to some of my genuine elk hide, and we'll lay down a couple of different stitches on this elk hide, probably going down and then coming back as well. And all in all, I'm really pleased with the way this machine is doing. It's really demonstrating a real strong lay down of the needle down at the material. It's really demonstrating that it's ready to get the job done. So let's see here. I'm going to shorten that stitch a little bit more. We're going to stay with the zigzag, but let's see how she does with this genuine elk hide. Here we go. Nicely done. Beautiful stitching. Just going to pull it out real quick and show it to you right away. There's our top stitch. I'll bring my light in just a little bit. Our top stitch, the spacing, the formation of this slightly smaller zigzag is exactly as it should be. And again, we're talking, if I turn it to the side like this, we're talking about 6 ounces of this genuine elk hide. And again, when it's processed, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get through. It's going to raise that threshold, that piercing threshold, considerably. And there's our lock stitch on the back, also a real good looking zigzag as well. Although I probably would make a slight adjustment to tighten that stitch maybe just slightly more. But all in all, I'm really pleased with the way that looks. A really good looking stitch. Again, this elk hide is nothing to scoff at. It is a very difficult material to get through, to say the least. I'll try to keep up with my thread trimming this time instead of getting way behind like the last time, although I think I've got a couple stray ones still. So now I'm going to do some protected full grain leather. You've seen this stuff before, and I cut this way too small to fold it in half. We're just going to do a single layer of it, which is probably about 3 ounces of leather. Nothing easy by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm going to make that zigzag even a little bit tighter than I did previously. And we'll see how it does going through this single layer of protected full grain leather. Here we go. No difficulty at all. Not even a blink. This Kenmore 1351, you know, while it is probably, it's a mix of plastic and metal, it really does have some really good engineering in it. I'll show you those shots on Facebook, and you're going to be able to see the quality of the engineering that the Japanese put into this machine. So here's our zigzag right here. Again, I've made it, I'm probably down around 10 as far as the stitch length, down around 1.5 as far as the zigzag width size. And I really like the look of that. It's a good looking stitch. We flip it over, no difference on the zigzag on the back for the lock stitch. Again, it's a mirror and match of the two. And I think what I'll do now is I'll lay down a real tight straight stitch right next to it, and we'll check that out as well. I'm going to go up to probably about 12 on the stitch length. Excuse me. Actually, I'll go a little bit above 12, and we'll lay down a straight stitch right next to this zigzag. Here we go. And this isn't even close to how small this Kenmore will sew. We can go all the way down to 24. I think it actually goes into the 26 range as far as the stitch length on this model 1351. And not only, I mean, the settings, who cares about numbers, right? There's our stitch on top. Absolutely a spectacular straight stitch. Spacing, the formation on this Kenmore 1351 is about as good as you can get it. There's no change at all as far as the integrity of that stitch from start to finish. It's absolutely spot on. If I turn it over, we've got an equally gorgeous lock stitch as well. And again, you can see that zigzag right below it. The spacing, the formation on this protected full grain leather is absolutely as it should be. So I'm really pleased, very, very pleased with the sew-offs that we've done. Again, we've done nylon webbing, 2 layers, we've done protected full grain leather, we've done genuine elk hide, we've done 2 layers of genuine cowhide as well. And every single one of those stitch-offs is just as it should be. So the last one I'm going to do, I'm going to find a little bit more music to put on, is going to be this leather snakeskin material. And again, if you've never sewed leather snakeskin before, you got to try it, because it is anything but easy. But it certainly is fun to go through that material, to say the least. All right, let me see what else I can find here. Hey, why don't I put on... We're really close to Christmas now. We're into December now. So let me put on a Christmassy song to end up and to wrap up this final sew-off. And before I launch into the sew-off, I'm also going to share just a real quick snippet on the Kenmore Sewing Machine Company history. A real quick snippet. So here we go with the first Noel to kind of get us heading towards the thought of Christmas approaching. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit about the Kenmore Sewing Machine Company. So Kenmore first appeared on a sewing machine in 1913, but was dropped in 1919. So we're only talking, what, 6 years, and it disappeared. But then the Kenmore brand reappeared again in 1934 and was sold until World War II. And then the company ended its sewing machine contract with White in 1958 and then started putting the Kenmore brand out again through the Japanese market. And that's really the birthplace of this Kenmore that you see in front of you right now. This Kenmore, I'll come out on this shot because right now all you're seeing is the needle. This Kenmore right here was born in Japan. And probably the latter part of the 1970s, going into the early part of the 1980s was the production time period for this model 1351. And it is a 12-stitch machine, but really that's not the point of what we're doing this quick premiere of Conformation Sew-Offs. I'm wanting to demonstrate a machine that would not even turn, had been dropped, had been stored, was just a very, very troubled machine, and yet now has that power restored, where we're sewing off protected full grain leather, we're sewing off genuine cowhide, we're sewing off nylon webbing, and the list goes on. I really want to show that you can have a machine that is all but dead, and after it's been on my workbench, I can restore that power that is equal to or better than when this machine left the factory in Japan back in the latter part of the 1970s going into the 1980s. And this machine is really back in its glory again. And when we pop over to Facebook in a bit, you'll see kind of where we started with this machine. At least you'll get a glimpse of it. And hopefully my page will load. That's kind of what I'm always concerned about when I use my older Toshiba, is that the page will not even load. I hope it loads! But while we're trying to load that page so we can pop over to Facebook and I can show you some of those shots, let's get back over to sewing off on this leather snakeskin material. And I didn't go over the machine a lot with you because I don't generally have a lot of Kenmores on this channel. And that's not because I don't like Kenmores. It's just, you know, the nature of the inventory that comes in. But this Kenmore really has a lot of nice features on it. And let me go to those real quick. Let me pop around real quick and just show you some of these the general lay of the land. So here our switch over here allows us to power the machine on, and you actually have to power the machine on to even sew. Some machines you can flip it on and all it does is control the light. This controls everything. There's our clutch release right there, standard clutch release on this Kenmore. And then they lay it out real easy here. Stitch width is on the top. You've got a specialty dial there on the center part that's going to allow you to, when you access some of the cams in this machine, either to go with a standard setting, which is where that little orange dot is, or you'll be able to adjust it into specialty settings by turning that inner dial between L and S. I think it's L and S. Yeah. There's our reverse. You just push it down to sew in reverse, and then we have stitch length on the bottom. Stitch range on this Kenmore is anywhere from about 6 stitches per inch all the way down to about 26. It doesn't go all the way to 30 like a lot of the Singers do. And then on top, we have what I would call kind of a convenience style. Most of the time when you're sewing the standard stitches, you're going to have it set exactly where you see it right now. Right on that M, the orange dot, and then the little dashes there on the right that indicate straight stitch mode. You can also turn it to access other stitches. There's kind of a catacomb stitch, a stretch stitch, a blind hem stitch, and there's a variety of others that are kind of built in here. Ones that Kenmore determined based on feedback that were the most common stitches that people needed to access. So they added this dial on top as a quick way to access those various stitches. That was really their motivation in putting that dial on. And then everything else is pretty straightforward. You come off the top, you go through this thread guide right here, you go down through the tension control disc, up through the take-up spring right there, over the top, through that thread guide. I know I'm doing this kind of fast. Through the take-up arm, all the way back down. There's another thread guide in the faceplate, and then you thread it through right here above the needle, and then eventually you're going to thread it from front to back with this Kenmore. So all in all, a very straightforward, easy machine to use. Nothing horribly complicated about using it. Also, you may be able to tell right away, it's also set up as a free arm machine. And taking off the free arm is easy. You just kind of, there's a little place to grab it right here on the left side. Kind of just pull it up, and you can access the bobbin that way as well, down here. And also down here you're going to have, I don't have my screen turned around. Also down here there's going to be a little control so you can drop the feed dogs as well if you choose to do that for freehand embroidery and for other applications that you might need that. And then when you put it back on, there's a little magnet right here. It's a little tricky. You have to kind of shove it in, apply a fair amount of pressure, and then snap it down to get it to go back into place again. So all in all, this 1351, I think it's a really good machine. And again, with it being a post-World War II machine that came out of Japan, the Japanese had a lot of skin in the game, even though we had given them a lot as far as plans and patents and designs and everything. They were really counting on sewing machines to be a big piece of rebuilding their economy. So they didn't build shoddy machines. They put a lot of quality engineering into what they built. And I think that's evident in the sew-offs you've seen thus far. Really is a top-notch machine when it comes to getting the job done. Well, let's see if that's true. Now we've got this leather snakeskin, leather on the back, snakeskin on the front. We're going to lay down a couple of stitches on this. And again, I could access some of those decorative ones, but that's really not my focus in this video. I want to show you a machine that was all but dead, and now it's got that power back again to do a wide range of sew-offs that would really kill a lot of the contemporary machines. And again, I'm not going to show the max of what this machine can do. I'm going to show you simply that it's got that grit back again to get the job done. So I know Shirley's going to be real pleased with it. All right, so let's do this. First of all, I'm going to lay down, and this could be a little bit harder to see, so I'm going to lengthen that stitch length a little bit to 8, and then I'm going to give us a zigzag that's right around on the 2 range, and we'll lay down a zigzag on the right side, and then I'll probably do a straight stitch going down the other side that's real tight. All right, here we go. Oh, beautiful stitch, beautiful stitch. All right, let me give this a quick clip, and then we'll lay down another stitch next to it. I hate to waste material, you know what I mean? I cut these a little bit wider than they really need to be. So there's our top stitch right there. I hope you can see that. Yeah, you can see it. I'm looking at the screen. That's our top stitch right there for this zigzag. Again, we've got a setting of 2 as far as the width and 8 as far as the stitch length, and it's absolutely spot on. If I flip it over, I'll kind of flip it. We've got a lock stitch on this as well that is absolutely as it should be. Absolutely spot on. So let me lay down another stitch next to it now, and I'm going to really make this a fairly short straight stitch just so we can see how that looks from an appearance standpoint next to the zigzag. And blah blah blah. All right, here I go. I haven't been in front of the camera for a while, so my rhythm is way off. I'm probably sounding a little bit mistimed. So here we go. I just love the way this thing runs too, this model 1351. It doesn't sound strained when it's getting the job done. It just gets into that rhythm, and it just gets the job done. Really a nice running machine, a nice sounding machine when it comes to laying down any type of stitch, really, through any type of material. It doesn't have that groaning sound like you get with a lot of the newer machines where you just wonder, is this thing going to blow up or what? So again, we went to about just shy of 24. It's a little bit hard to see because that is a teeny tiny stitch, but the stitch formation, the stitch quality as far as the spacing and everything is just absolutely spot on. If we turn it over, there's our lock stitch. Actually a little bit easier to see on that side of the material. And again, a stitch quality that is absolutely, in my opinion, brag-worthy. Really, really nice looking stitching. Again, I'll flip it back towards the front again, and you can see a stitch that is exactly blah, 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 as it should be. So I'm going to lay these out on the machine surface, and I guess I didn't clip all my threads. Clip these real quick. And of course, I will not get them in exactly the right order, but I'll get close probably. At least I'll get them on the machine bed, and that way you can at least see them. Oh boy, this nylon webbing is going to be a booger to see. Yeah, I'll lay it out there anyway. And then finally our elk hide. I'll kind of put it underneath the presser foot. Yeah, this toe strap was actually used on a car at one point. I can still see the grease on it. Okay, so let's start on the right side over here. The last sew-off we just did, and I'll try to get in fairly tight on it. So here we've got our 2 layers of snakeskin leather combination. You can see on the right side there we did the real tight straight stitch. On the left we did our zigzag, and both of them are absolutely as they should be. Spacing, formation, the stitch alignment is absolutely spot on. And again, this is, I know it doesn't appear to be a super thick material, and it's not, but when you combine snakeskin and leather, it really is not a sew-off that you can say is an easy sew-off to get done. And here we've got our 2 layers of genuine cowhide. Absolutely a gorgeous zigzag stitch going down that material. Absolutely gorgeous. And again, if you look at it from the side, just a single layer of this stuff, you can see with your own eyes, a single layer of this genuine cowhide is enough to choke most contemporary machines. And now we have our single layer protected full grain leather, and we did the straight and the zigzag going down, and it's absolutely spot on. Beautiful stitching in every respect. Lovely, lovely, lovely stitching from this Kenmore. And then we did our nylon webbing, which is probably going to be virtually impossible to see. That's kind of disappointing, but you know, you put white thread on a yellow material, you can kind of see it there from the edge if I really kind of go wide on it. But the stitching all the way down, these 2 layers of nylon webbing, is absolutely as it should be. And again, I'm kind of showing you from the side there. This nylon webbing was used to tow one of my cars, about an 8,000 pound van. And a single layer of this is rated at over 2,000 pounds tensile strength. So these 2 layers together, you're looking at over 4,000 pounds of tensile strength. And this Kenmore, well, you heard it. It didn't even show any sign of it being a challenge. And now we've got our single layer of genuine elk hide. We did kind of a offset zigzag, and it's absolutely gorgeous all the way down, all the way down. What you can see anyway, when the presser foot gets in the way. And a real nice feature, I should probably show you, I'll come out on this shot a little bit, a real nice feature of this Kenmore 1351 that I think is really brag-worthy is it's got a absolute killer hyperextension on it. Now, some machines that I've demonstrated will have a hyperextension about like this. You know, it gives you just a little bit extra, you know, to sneak extra thick material underneath there. Here's this Kenmore 1351. I'm not making it up, folks. Look at that! Oh my gosh! It's like a quantum leap. You go from, this is upright now, folks. This is, we got a thick piece of genuine elk hide underneath there, and then we could put another 4 or 5 pieces of elk hide underneath there from a clearance standpoint. You could probably fit 4 or 5 quarters underneath there. I've demonstrated that in other videos to show you the clearance underneath a particular presser foot. That's absolutely, I think that's just, wow! That's absolutely crazy. So, before I run out of time or space or something else, let me zip over to the computer and I'll just show you these shots on Facebook as I was beginning to launch into this machine. So here we've got that Kenmore 1351 kind of on the side, and I'm just showing kind of an opening shot of it. Nothing spectacular. Now here we're looking down into the hook system, and I've disassembled the hook system so I can do deep cleaning in there. Again, the Raceway is really the brain center of your sewing machine. You can't neglect that. You've got to maintain it. You've got to do regular maintenance on it. And there's the hook, actually, along with the retaining plate I've removed. And each one of those pieces receives a detailed cleaning, checking it for metal barbs. If there's a stray needle strike or something like that, you can sometimes get metal barbs that are developing on the hook. And all of that has to be addressed, along with various lubrication points as well. Just another angle of looking at the hook and the retaining plate. This is a critical spring underneath the Raceway area that's going to allow those feed dogs to be dropped. And I had to make some adjustments on that and do some deep cleaning as well. Here what you're seeing on the side of the pillar is, yeah, you can read it now. Made in Japan. And again, as I said, this was a post-World War II machine. As best as I can determine, probably late 1970s. I would say probably around 1976. But I know that they made these machines going into the 1980s. Another angle shot of the machine kind of on its side. You can see some of the control areas. Here we're looking at part of the bottom of the machine and the light assembly cord as well, checking the electrical. Here again we're looking at more shots of the, trying to get my, I've got a little bit of reflection on the screen, folks, is why I'm struggling. Okay, now we're looking at the bottom of the machine. And here we've taken a number of the components off so we can access the bottom of the machine. One would think, kind of like the drip pan on the 301 or the Featherweight, that there would only be one bolt or screw that you would have to take out to access the bottom of this 1351. Not the case. You have to take out about 8 different bolts and screws to get the bottom off. And here we're looking at the top of the machine down. Again, that's that little quick access specialty dial that Kenmore added for the stitches that they felt their users were going to be needing to use most often, and so they put it right on top of the machine to make it convenient for sewers. Here again we're looking at the machine top down. And again, what I'm trying to show you through some of these shots is this is all forged steel. This is all metal that Kenmore used on this 1351. Again, the Japanese, while we gave them a lot of advantages with the patents and the designs and everything, they were really leaning on sewing machines and other small appliances to rebuild their economy. So they went all out and they built some real quality machines. There's our main shaft right there that would not even turn, a result in part because of storage and rust, and then also because the machine had been dropped. But as you've seen in the sew-offs today, there ain't no problem with that main shaft turning now. And here we're kind of looking down towards the faceplate area. Here's our quick release. You just push this little inner ring in right there, and it releases all the pressure foot pressure. And then you can just push this little button down to re-engage it again. And you always want to make sure with these Japanese style machines, this ring right here that turns, you want to turn it so it's all the way down. People sometimes will loosen it up, and then you're not getting the full benefit of that even pressure foot pressure. So here we're kind of just looking at the front of the machine and the top. Here's our motor on the bottom of the machine when I finally got the bottom of the machine taken off. And you may not be able to read it, but it's a Kenmore original motor, and it's a 0.7 amp motor. Again, you're just looking at the bottom of the machine now, and again, I was very impressed with the engineering. Now this is a piece right here that still had a lot of that rust on it. Hopefully you can see that in the shot. And this is one of the components that allows you to drop the feed dogs. So that all had to be cleaned and defunked as far as all the rust and junk that was on it. Again, just another shot of the bottom of the machine. Towards the raceway area, again, you can see the entire bottom of the machine has been taken off. Adjust the shot a little bit. There we go. Just another angle shot of the machine, and I think we've come full circle. Yeah, we have. So again, for those of you that don't do Facebook, I go to the effort of showing you these shots that I post on Facebook, progress shots, opening shots, just so that you have the benefit of kind of seeing the process, or at least a snippet of the process that I use in evaluating machines and getting them, you know, back to where they need to be. Again, the shots you see on Facebook are a small little sampling, a tiny sampling of the process steps that I go through, but at least it gives you a glimpse, because again, you're not going to get this type of servicing and restoration at your local sewing shop. It's just not going to happen. I've said it before, the average sewing shop, if you take your machine in for a tune-up or a service, they're going to spend anywhere from, on the real short end, 20 minutes up to about 45 minutes, compared to when a machine hits my workbench, where I spend on average 12 to 14 hours. 12 to 14 hours versus 20 minutes or 45 minutes on the long end. So that's why people from all around the world, and I'm very thankful for their trust and confidence, people from all around the world will seek me out and will find a way of getting their machine to me. I just recently had one customer that came in with 5 machines, I think, 1, 2, 3, I think it's 5 machines, and drove all the way in from the East Coast, Pennsylvania area. Because of the difference, because of the process that I've painstakingly developed over decades now, people are willing to make that extra travel distance or ship the machine so that I have an opportunity, and I would say a privilege, to have that machine on my workbench and to really show them what that full potential looks like on that machine. Whether it's a Kenmore 1351 like this that belongs to Shirley, or whether it's a machine like this one on the other workbench, like this Singer 201-2 that belongs to my friend William, who sent it to me, and eventually it's going to be heading back to San Antonio, Texas. And as you will see eventually when I premiere this 201-2, it had a lot of challenges, but it will be as right as rain by the time I get done with it. And I always say, I don't just take it back to factory standard. I try to go above and beyond that. I actually try to make the machine have greater capabilities and greater performance aptitude than when it left that factory. And that's because of my processes, again, because of what I do to the machines when they're on the workbench for those 12 to 14 hours. So let me wrap this premiere up, and let me mention as well that the contest that I did as we reached the milestone of 6,000 subscribers is now ended. It ended as promised on the evening of December 2nd at midnight. December 2nd at midnight, the contest ended. I think we only had about 3 entries. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of struggling with what to do with those entries. A couple people wrote some wonderful things, but they really didn't get much of a response as far as likes. Another person got I would say a fair number of likes, but what they wrote wasn't as good as what the other person wrote in my judgment. So I'm kind of, I'm kind of sitting on the fence on this one. As you might remember, when we hit 5,000 subscribers, I asked Bill O'Rourke, my friend and my moderator from Florida, to judge that contest, and he determined that no one won it. So I'm not opposed to that. I love to have winners. I love to do impromptu contests and send people special little doodads, as you've witnessed over the years in following me on YouTube. I love doing it. It's fun to send them little surprises in that. But I'm also integrity based. And so when it comes to doing a contest and doing it right, if there isn't a winner, there isn't a winner. So I'll have to kind of study this a little bit. I'll probably invite some feedback from Bill, from Hans as well, my new moderator from Norway, and we'll see what happens with this contest at 6,000 subscribers. We're already almost a quarter of the way heading towards 7,000 subscribers. So I know soon enough we're going to be doing another major contest. So I'm hoping I can evaluate it and find justification in awarding that really beautiful Singer 99K to one of the people that took the time and the effort to post something, but I'm not absolutely convinced of that at this point, so we'll see. But blah, 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 blah. Wrapping it up now, it really is fun to take a machine that is basically dead, like Shirley's Kenmore 1351, and then to be able to do all these sew-offs that you can see in front of you right now, from the far left with the genuine elk hide, to the nylon webbing, to the protected full grain leather, to the genuine cowhide, and finally the furthest one to the right, that leather snakeskin, and to just show that a machine can get the job done and do it effortlessly, like this 1351 just demonstrated. So I hope you'll stay tuned for other great videos like this where I demonstrate why my process is so different, and more importantly, the really crazy outcomes I can get with machines that other people would have written off. Other people would have said, nah, it's toast. You can't do anything with it. Well, I demonstrate almost every day in the workshop through persistence and through, I would say, a lot of grace, that the impossible can happen regularly at this workshop with taking machines that seem like they're hopeless, they seem like they're pretty much washed up, and get the job done. So thanks for being a faithful follower of me on YouTube. Thanks for being a faithful follower as well on Facebook. Let me encourage you, if you haven't liked either one of those pages yet, take time to do that. Take time to like it. If you want to share it, I would be grateful for that. And again, just thanks for being faithful followers. You really are the wind beneath my wings. You really are what keeps me doing what I'm doing. So God bless you, and take care as we head towards Christmas, as we head towards the holidays, as we head real soon towards 2020. Can you believe it? It almost sounds like a optometrist thing or something. But hopefully our vision towards the new year is nothing but great things.